What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Panthers Advice. This is our third year doing the blueprint. You guys have grown this channel a lot. I appreciate all of you guys. But today's video, we're not going to react to the whole blueprint episode 1. We're going to go part by part. So today's episode is going over T-Mac. How did that come to fruition? Were the Panthers going to trade up, trade down? What happened, man? Let's get into it.
The 2025 NFL Draft is now officially open.
Oh boy, here we go.
Here we are with the Titans now 30 seconds in. This should be Cam Ward from all intents and purposes.
So if you whenever you trade out of 8, you have to assume that that's whoever we want. Okay? You're going to have to decide what you can take.
No, that's what I'm saying.
To pass up our guy.
It has to be up, like above and beyond.
Yeah.
We're not just going to give them to come get our guy.
Right.
See, that part right there is interesting, all right? Because let's run that back real quick just a little bit.
To decide what you can take.
When Brandt says you're going to decide what you would take, I'm thinking, okay, either we're talking Jalen Walker, we're talking Mason Graham, we're talking, T-Mac, we're talking everybody we've talked about, right? Everybody we talked about in all those mock draft scenarios we did. I didn't realize it was either going to be T-Mac or a trade based off what they just said.
No, that's what I'm saying.
To pass up our guy.
It has to be up, like above and beyond.
Yeah.
We're not just going to give them to come get our guy.
Right.
How you doing? My favorite part of the draft is just kind of seeing who's there and like if your predictions were, as good as you thought they were going to be.
It's like a 2-point favor for us on the NFL chart.
Okay. Yeah, let me check it out and then I'll okay back. I think they won our guy.
They do.
So it has to be more. No matter.
I want to know who that was, right? I want to know who was offering to come up to the Panther spot to get potentially T-Mac, right? That's interesting right there. And they were going to trade potential, but like, hey, if you're going to come up, we're going to need a little bit more pesos from you.
What person, you think you're going to draft, you always feel like somebody else is going to take them because you get paranoid.
The Cleveland Browns have traded the second pick to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Oh, there it is.
They traded 1, 2, and 4 in next year's 1 for 2, 4, and 6.
Then you got to figure the Browns are going to take a tackle. Nobody's has it stacked the same. So once we saw T-Mac there, obviously the excitement was there.
Because I heard they also like Mason Graham.
Good.
It might just be me, but when Brandt says this right here,
They also like Mason Graham.
Good.
and Dan Morgan says good, I'm not going to lie. Part of me when they drafted T-Mac, I thought Dan kind of wanted a defensive player, and I thought maybe Tepper and Dave really wanted an offensive guy. But I'm starting to see T-Mac is Dan's guy by far, and Dave probably likes him too. But it seems like Dan, he's the one that's all in on T-Mac. Obviously, Brandt, he's the guy who wants action, wants to trade up, trade down. Tepper, he's based off what we're seeing, right? Because you can kind of edit things to fit a certain narrative, right? Tepper seems to be kind of going with the flow. But it seems like Dan Morgan is the one that's calling the shot. And maybe I'm mistaken, but he's the one who wants T-Mac, right? He said Mason Graham going to the Browns, good. Shocked me a little bit.
Perfect. Either way.
With the 5th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Cleveland Browns select Mason Graham.
We had some trade discussions going on at the time, but I was kind of hoping that the trade would fall through because I really wanted to take T-Mac. O-line or tight end at 7, so our guy's going to be on.
Let's just hold off and see if the Rams call.
Yeah.
I'm wired, and you guys can see it on the blueprint video. Like, I want to trade up, I want to trade back. I just want action. When Mason got picked, I knew we were going to have an opportunity to trade our pick. We had.
See that right there tells you, I'm telling you, Tepper seemed to be along for the ride. Brandt, that man wants to will and deal. Dan wants T-Mac.
We had action.
It's kind of big for us. No pressure, though. It's fine. I'm fine.
So the Rams wanted to come up, and when you're coming up from that far, or you're moving that far back, the compensation becomes a lot trickier.
So this is where things get interesting, right? Because the Panthers are sitting at 8. The Rams are sitting at what, like 26, give or take? there would have had to have been probably this year's first and probably next year's first too, depending on how much, right, the Panthers wanted to get from the Rams in general. And it probably would have been that much because it seems like Dan Morgan, man, he is high on T-Mac.
Yeah.
Do you know what you want to do?
Mm-hmm. I can tell you something. I do. No calls. What's up, man?
Just sitting here. What do you got?
Before we went on the clock, before the draft even started on Thursday, like we had it figured out, like, okay, it's going to take this for us to move back to 26.
So it's, hang on, it's 8?
We're on the clock, and the Rams are asking, hey, do you guys want to do this trade?
All right, let me call you back. All right, bye.
What did they say on their side?
We had a little bit of trade stuff going on that we were kind of working through. You know, they would have had to give us the moon for us to trade out of that spot.
See right there? You see right there, Dan Morgan, he is the one. You see what I'm saying? Dan Morgan is the one who wants T-Mac, right? Brandt, he wants to will and deal. Dan's like, hey, you either give us the moon or we're drafting our guy.
Still not the same deal we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it was no different than free agency or even doing an extension. Like, I'm just following a script and a plan.
How does that compare with this one?
Yeah.
Would you do this right now?
Yeah. No.
You would?
Oh.
The one we offered?
Yeah.
Would you do this?
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to know what that deal was, because if Dan Morgan's actually willing to do the trade to not take T-Mac and fall back to the 26, and just to reference this real quick, the 26th pick actually ended up being traded to who? The Atlanta Falcons. And who did the Atlanta Falcons take with their first pick? Jalen Walker. Who did they take with their second one? James Pierce Jr. It's crazy sometimes how things kind of unfold, right? Because those are two guys that the Panthers fans kind of wanted, to be honest with you. If they were to trade back, get James Pierce Jr. If they were to stay at 8, get Jalen Walker. Sometimes it's interesting, you know, how things unfold.
They do it, or
Yeah.
we're just going to call it.
All right. We will do the thing that Dan had proposed. Okay, cool. All right, they're talking it over.
Like, I could feel my heart pounding. Eric leaned over to me and he was like, this is like a multi-million-dollar decision for us. I'm like, okay, great, thank you.
There's 2 minutes left. You know, I remember looking up at the clock when he didn't get picked at 7 and he was there, like, it was like, boom.
We already knew what we were going to do. It was just a question of, was it going to happen?
Hey. Okay, cool. All right, bye. They're out.
All right. T-Mac. Let's go.
Is it just me? I'm a little shocked. And what I mean by shocked after watching part 1, like I said, we're going to have multiple parts throughout the week. Stay tuned for that. But what I mean when I say I'm a little shocked is, you know, I knew they liked T-Mac. You could kind of get the vibe from that after they drafted him. I just didn't know how much they loved him. And then it was basically an ultimatum, right? And I've seen ultimatums, but nothing really like this, where it's T-Mac or we trade back. It didn't seem to be, you know, based off the editing, right? Because you can kind of, you know, create videos to kind of fit a certain narrative, right? It didn't seem to be like that, right? Maybe we're just super good at editing, but it seemed like it was, we're going in on T-Mac, and that's it, right? It's T-Mac or nothing. It's T-Mac or trade back. And if you want to come up and get T-Mac, you're going to have to give up the world to get him. Now, maybe, let's say somebody kind of right behind the Panthers wanted to trade up that wasn't a division rival. Maybe not as much then. But if you were far back, you're going to have to give up a lot of something to come up and get him. So I got to say, part 1 definitely left me shocked, to be honest. Like I said before, I was just shocked more than anything about how much Dan was in love with T-Mac. You know, I think Dave wanted him too. Dave's an offensive guy. Brandt wants to will and deal. It shocked me. All right, so this was part 1. Stay tuned. Part 2, going over Princely, Nick Scorton. Excited to jump in that one tomorrow. Stay tuned for that one. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Take it easy. Peace. Panther Bites is out.